I never thought that Christmas dinner would end up being the day my son kicked me out of my own family. Adam cleared his throat. "Mom," he said, voice dripping with fake warmth, "we've talked it over." He motioned to Lisa, then to her two bulldog brothers flanking the table like bodyguards. "And we think it's time we were honest with you." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "You're nothing but a parasite at this table," he said. "You don't belong here anymore. You are officially no longer part of this family." Lisa laughed. Her brothers chuckled. I heard one of them mutter, "Finally," under his breath. My chest burned. My ears rang. I looked around at the table, at my daughter-in-law, the grandchildren I babysat for 3 years while she got back in shape, and the son I raised on thrift store shoes and hope. No one stopped him. No one said a word. The youngest grandchild, little Maddie, blinked at me with confusion, mid-bite of green bean casserole. The lights flickered above us, warm and soft, too soft for the cruelty I was choking on. I set my fork down. Gently, I smiled. Just a little. My hands didn't shake. I wouldn't give them that. "Well," I said, "thank you for your honesty." I reached into my handbag. "And I suppose it's only right I leave you with a parting gift." The folder slid across the table like a ghost. Lisa reached for it, but Adam snatched it up first. He flipped it open, expecting, I don't know, a check maybe? One last display of gratitude from the woman he just excommunicated like trash. His face paled. He turned the page. And then his wife started screaming. Lisa snatched the folder from Adam's hands. "What is this?" she hissed, flipping pages. Her eyes darted across the will, the account statements, the property records. Her lips moved silently as she read, until her mouth just hung open. I watched her world tilt and crack. Good. The grandchildren were motionless. The oldest one, Noah, looked from his father to me like he didn't understand what planet we'd landed on. Maddie leaned closer to me, unconsciously, like I was still her safe place. Even now. No one said a word. I let the silence stretch. Then I stood up slowly, took my wine glass in one hand, tapped it gently with the back of my knife, like I was making a toast. "I wasn't going to say anything," I said softly. "I planned to leave after dinner, quietly, with some grace." I looked at Adam. I saw fear in his eyes for the first time in years. Not guilt, fear. "But you wanted an audience," I continued. "So now you've got one." Lisa opened her mouth. Maybe to lie, maybe to beg. I didn't care. She was already too late. I walked away from the table without another word. And as I passed the Christmas tree, the one I decorated with ornaments from 50 years of memory, I looked up at the lights. They were still twinkling, but now they looked like fire. The first time I truly suspected Adam of something deliberate was the day Mr. Carter called me. It was a week before Christmas. My lawyer, kind, soft-spoken man, never dramatic, but that day his voice was tight, alarmed. "There are movements on your accounts," he said. "Attempts to list your home, signatures that aren't yours." The blood drained from my face. "Who?" I asked. He hesitated. "We're tracing the source, but it came from someone close." That's when I knew. I knew it was Adam. And yet, part of me had known for a while. Not the fraud, not the documents, but the distance. The slow, deliberate removal of me from his world. It started when he married Lisa. That woman was polite, yes, civil, always, but warm, never. She hugged like someone checking off a task. She never looked me in the eye unless she was correcting me, always correcting how I folded the towels, how I arranged the flowers, how I still used a landline. She took Adam and stretched him into someone else, but I can't blame her for all of it. A man doesn't abandon his mother unless he's already looking for a reason. At first, it was little things. He stopped calling unless they needed a sitter. Birthdays became group texts. He started telling jokes that stung. At Thanksgiving one year, I brought a pie I'd made from scratch. He cut a slice, tasted it, and said, "Wow, Mom, tastes like 1953 in here." They all laughed. I laughed too, but I cried in my car on the way home. Then came the suggestions, always wrapped in fake concern. "Have you thought about a smaller place? You know, one with rails in the shower?" "I don't want to scare you, Mom, but what if you fell?" That old carpet's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Once, when I asked if I could host Christmas again, Lisa looked me dead in the eye and said, "I think we've all outgrown that tiny dining room." They stopped inviting me to things altogether soon after that. I told myself they were busy. Everyone's busy. But the lawyer's call made it impossible to lie to myself anymore. Adam hadn't drifted, he'd planned. 6 days before Christmas, Mr. Carter phoned again. His voice was calm, professional. But under it, I heard it, that edge. That hesitation attorneys only get when they're about to say something that changes everything. "We traced the attempted property listing," he said, "and the documents were submitted digitally through a third-party platform. Not uncommon. But the contact email used to set it up?" He paused. I stood in my kitchen, one hand still on the kettle. It whistled behind me. I didn't move. "Ma'am, the email is linked to a corporate domain," he said. "From your son's office." My throat dried instantly. "Adam?" I said. But it wasn't a question. Not really. "Yes. We haven't confirmed his direct action yet. It could have been someone using his credentials. But the IP address used during the upload, it pinged from within his office building." I leaned back against the counter. Hard. "He tried to sell my house," I whispered. There was a silence on the line. Then, "Yes, Mrs. Harper, and without your consent, that's fraud," the kettle shrieked. "I let it," Mr. Carter continued. "I've already flagged the listing as disputed. No sale will go through. But I need your permission to escalate. We need to start compiling formal documentation." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Do it," I said, and just like that, the line was crossed. It wasn't just disrespect anymore. It wasn't just coldness or neglect. It was theft, betrayal, an attempt to erase me, not just emotionally, but legally. The boy I gave my life to was trying to take mine apart. I stood there in the kitchen for a long time after the call ended. The kettle had boiled itself dry. The smell of scorched metal filled the air. I didn't even notice. What got me, what truly stunned me, wasn't the fraud itself. It was how unbothered he must have been doing it, how easily he probably justified it. "She doesn't need that house. She'd be better off somewhere smaller. We're just helping her, helping me, by forging my name, by selling my history, by slicing through the roof I'd built with his father, brick by brick." Adam wasn't just drifting from me. He was already gone. After the call ended, I sank into the chair by the window and stared at the streetlight outside, flickering against the snow. I didn't cry. I sat there, arms folded tightly across my chest, like I was trying to hold something inside from spilling out. But it wasn't tears I was holding back. It was rage. There's a moment when someone you love betrays you, where time splits, before and after. Before, he was still my son, still redeemable, still just lost in someone else's orbit, maybe manipulated, maybe distracted. After, he was someone who forged my name, who sat in his office, surrounded by people who probably called me mom at his wedding and listed my house like it was a used car. I sat with that, let it hurt, let it burn. And then, slowly, something settled in me, cold, hard, and focused. If Adam thought I was too weak to notice, then he didn't know me at all. I got up and pulled out my old notebooks, legal pads, manila envelopes, printouts, all of it. Decades of notes from friends I'd helped, with wills and elder care, small claims, court filings, title disputes, quiet work, things no one noticed. I'd spent most of my adult life fixing things for other people. Now, I was fixing something for myself, because I wasn't going to let my son steal from me while smiling across a dinner table. I wasn't going to let him laugh while he erased me from my own life. And I damn sure wasn't going to let him walk away without consequences. That night, I made 3 phone calls, quiet ones. A retired title officer I once helped through probate, a neighbor whose nephew worked in cybersecurity, and Mr. Carter, again, with one simple sentence: "I want to move forward." This wasn't about anger anymore, or grief, or even family. It was about right and wrong, paper trails, names on documents, truth that could stand up in court. That's when I realized I wasn't just hurt. I was awake. And Adam? He had no idea that the woman he dismissed as irrelevant was about to become the most dangerous person in his life. The envelope arrived 2 days later. It was thin, just a few pages, hand-delivered by Mr. Carter's assistant. "Requested documentation," she said politely, as if she hadn't just handed me a bullet. I waited until I was alone in the kitchen, then opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a copy of the property listing attempt, the one made without my knowledge. My name forged at the bottom, and beside it, the origin metadata from the email system used to submit the listing. Adam's office address, his full work email, proof. Mr. Carter's note was clipped to the top. More to come. But this should be enough to begin. I stared at Adam's name, typed so cleanly across the header. For a moment, I just sat there, gripping the edge of the table. I wanted to believe there was some explanation, that maybe it wasn't him. Maybe someone else at the company used his login. Maybe Lisa had sent the file without his knowledge. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But it was. Because the email address? It wasn't just a generic one. It had his signature, his direct contact line. It was him. And even more damning, the message included a sentence that sliced straight through me. Owner is elderly and unable to manage property. Looking to liquidate quickly before health concerns worsen. That's what my son wrote about me. Like I was already fading, like I was just a complication to be handled. I closed the folder and set it gently beside me. My hands had stopped shaking. This wasn't just carelessness. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was strategy. It was ambition. Dressed up as concern. He wanted the house, the money, my silence. And if he had to write me off as incompetent to get it, so be it. I poured myself a cup of coffee and stared out the kitchen window, watching the snow collect along the edges of the rose bushes I planted the year his father died. That's when I felt it. Not heartbreak, not even anger. Resolve, the kind that seeps in when something snaps clean. They were treating me like I was already gone. Fine. Because now I was documenting everything. I started with the bank statements. I've kept everything. 20 years of transactions boxed up in my closet, labeled and sorted. That's who I am. That's what Adam forgot. It didn't take long. Right there on the October statement, 3 payments to Adam, each labeled elder care reimbursement. I stared at them like they were written in blood. I'd given him that money to help with the kids. A few hundred here, 1,000 there when Lisa said the car broke down or daycare got expensive. Never loans. I never asked for it back. I thought I was being a good mother. But on paper, it looked like I was paying him to take care of me. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the house. He was building a case, piece by piece, creating a version of me on paper that didn't exist. A woman slipping, vulnerable, ripe for guardianship. He wasn't stealing behind my back. He was making it look like I had asked him to. I pulled out the flagged listing from Mr. Carter's envelope again. The description still made my stomach turn. Owner is elderly and unable to manage the property, liquidating due to health concerns. That house is my home, paid off, built by my husband, every brick tied to a memory, and my son was trying to make it disappear, legally. That's when I understood the danger. He didn't need to kick me out. He just had to convince the right people that I didn't belong there anymore. But he made a fatal mistake. He taught me how to do paperwork when I was 28. And I never forgot how to read between the lines. He showed up on a Wednesday, no call or text. Just the sound of his tires crunching over the gravel in my driveway, like he still lived here, like he still had that right. I saw him through the front window, hands in his coat pockets, jaw tight, not smiling. My stomach clenched, but I didn't flinch. I opened the door. "Hey, Mom," he said, too casually. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. He didn't sit. He hovered, pacing a little, looking around like he was sizing up a house he already owned. And then, without preamble, he said it. "Have you thought more about selling this place?" I stared at him. "You mean the house I paid off with your father? The one you tried to list without my signature?" He blinked, hesitated, then smiled. Fake thin. "Come on, don't be like that. You know this place is too much for you." All those stairs. That old wiring. The furnace barely works. It's not safe anymore. I didn't respond. I just watched him try to play the concerned son. The performance was worse than usual. He kept going. Lisa and I have been talking. We could help you move into something smaller, safer. And, it makes sense for the house to go to the next generation, doesn't it? Keep it in the family. There it was. Ownership? Not suggested, not discussed, but assumed. I didn't realize you were the next generation, I said quietly. He looked up. That's when I saw it. That flicker of annoyance, the one he usually saved for Lisa's brothers when they drank too much at barbecues. I just think it's time to let go, Mom, he said. You don't need all this space. And frankly, you've been kind of isolated. It's starting to worry people. I smiled then. Just a little. People like you, he shrugged. We all want what's best for you. No, I thought. You want what's left of me. But I didn't say it. I just turned toward the kitchen and said over my shoulder, I'm making coffee. Do you want any? He hesitated. No, I've got a meeting. Of course he did. He left without hugging me, without looking back, like he thought the conversation had gone well, like the papers were already in motion. And maybe they were, but so were mine. Mr. Carter met me at the diner. Neutral ground, public enough that no one could raise their voice. Not that I would. I had no voice left to raise, just the steady burn of resolve. He slid a thick folder across the table. You ready? He asked. I nodded. He opened it slowly, page by page. Not to explain, I understood every piece, but to let me see it laid out in order, in full. Exhibit A, bank transfers 15 over the past 2 years. Small, inconsistent amounts, enough to look harmless, but everyone labeled the same way in Adam's records. Elder care. I had given that money freely. He had turned it into evidence that I was failing. Exhibit B, property documents, the attempted listing, the digital signatures, metadata tracing the upload to his work computer, logged under his own user ID. Exhibit C, emails to a real estate broker. Adam's exact words, looking to move fast. Owner mentally compromised, but cooperative for now. I felt my stomach twist when I read that one. Mr. Carter hesitated before showing it to me. He knew you'd see this eventually, he said. No, I thought. He didn't. He never thought I'd fight back. Exhibit D, a spreadsheet of communications between Adam and Lisa. She knew. She wasn't just standing by, she was helping. One line from her email stood out. Once it's in our name, we can do whatever we want with it. There it was, the quiet part said out loud, and then finally, the will, my husband's handwriting on the final clause, the one we added after he watched his sister get pushed out of her home by greedy nieces. It was firm, it was binding, and it gave me the power to remove any heir who acted with malice or financial manipulation toward the estate or its executor. I closed the folder and looked at Mr. Carter. This is enough? He nodded. This is more than enough. My hands rested on the cover. All the pieces fit. No more maybes. No more heartbreak. Just evidence. All I had to do now was deliver it. I was still sitting at the diner booth, my hand on the folder, when Mr. Carter cleared his throat. There's something else, he said, lowering his voice. I looked up. His expression had shifted. Not legal, not professional. Now it was something else. Hesitant. Personal. I didn't want to overwhelm you last week, he continued, but I took the liberty of hiring someone after the property listing came through. I blinked. You hired a private investigator? He nodded. The day after we traced the email to Adam's office. I didn't like how fast this was escalating, and I had a hunch. I stared at him. And? He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a second, slimmer file. The label on the front was typed neatly. Supplemental findings. Adam Harper. He opened it to the first page. There were photos, hotel parking lots, receipts, 2 figures, Adam and a woman who wasn't Lisa, walking into a downtown hotel at 10:42 p.m., multiple dates, different cities, consistent behavior. The woman's name is Marissa Grant, Mr. Carter said. He's been meeting her regularly for nearly 5 months, business trips, overnight stays, cash transactions for dinners, boutique charges, even a weekend cabin rental under a fake company name. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I stared at the images, my son's back turned to the camera, holding a purse, holding her hand. He's cheating on Lisa, I said finally. On top of everything else, he's cheating. Mr. Carter nodded once. We can confirm the relationship. It's not speculation. And from a legal standpoint, it adds weight to your claim. It shows intent, manipulation, and moral character. If he's willing to lie to his wife while stealing from his mother, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I sat back and exhaled, a long, steady breath that tasted like old grief. My son, the boy I'd raised with bedtime stories and secondhand sneakers, the man I once trusted with my house key, my finances, my future, now stealing from me, lying to his wife, building an entire second life behind the backs of everyone who loved him. I closed the folder slowly, not gently. All right, I said. Let's put that in the packet. Mr. Carter's eyebrows lifted. You want to include the affair? Absolutely, I said. He turned this into war the second he tried to sell my house. Now I was going to end it. That night I sat on the edge of my bed, holding a photo I hadn't touched in years. Adam, 5 years old. Grass stains on his jeans, arms outstretched on his little tricycle. His smile was missing 2 teeth, but he beamed like he ruled the world. That's the boy I raised, not the man in that hotel photo, not the voice behind those forged documents, not the stranger building a life that erases mine. I had stared at those bank transfers, the fake emails, the proof of his affair, and I hadn't flinched. But here, in the quiet, holding that picture, I broke. Not loud, not messy, just one sob that shook through my ribs and left me still. Grief like that doesn't scream. It whispers, he's gone. And maybe he's been gone for a long time. Maybe I just didn't want to see it. I loved my son. I still do. But love doesn't mean shielding someone from consequences. He made his choices, slowly, deliberately. And now I would make mine, not out of revenge, not out of bitterness, out of self-respect. That photo, the boy he was, went back into the chest, gently, carefully. And I stood up, taller than I'd felt in weeks. Grief can hollow you out. But sometimes it makes room for something stronger. It took 2 days to assemble the folder. I laid everything out on the dining room table, not to double check, but to feel the weight of what I was about to do. Every page was earned. The updated will came first. Adam was out, clean cut, the estate, the house, the investments, all redirected. A trust in Maddie's name, a donation to the shelter where I used to volunteer, and the clause, the one my husband wrote in his own firm hand, invoked and signed. Then came the evidence, the bank statements showing elder care reimbursements he invented, the emails arranging the illegal listing of my home, his work email, traced and time-stamped, photos of him with the other woman, hotel receipts, cabin rentals, lies stacked like cards, ready to fall. It wasn't a threat. It was a record. I printed everything twice, one copy for Mr. Carter, one for Adam. The last item I added was personal, a copy of the note Adam had written me when he was 10. You're my hero, Mom. I'll always protect you. I thought about leaving it out. But I didn't. Let him see the boy he used to be. Let him remember what he traded for ambition. I slid everything into a plain manila folder. No bow, no label, just weight, truth, consequences. Then I placed it in my handbag. It sat there silently until Christmas. I cooked. I wrapped gifts for the grandkids. I said nothing. Lisa texted to confirm the menu. Adam asked if I was still okay to bring the stuffing, smiling like nothing had happened. Let them smile. They wanted a performance? They'd get one, but not the one they expected. The morning of Christmas Eve, I polished the silver and set out my old serving dishes like I always do. The house looked beautiful. So did the trap. Because this wasn't just dinner anymore, this was the end of pretending. The turkey was still steaming when Adam stood up. He tapped his glass with the back of a spoon, the same way his father used to when making a toast. That was the worst part, how he mimicked the tradition like it still belonged to him. I just want to say something, he said, raising his glass. It's been a big year for our family, and after talking it over, We all felt it was time for a little honesty. My hand found my napkin. I didn't move. Lisa was already smiling. Adam looked right at me, his voice loud enough for the children to stop fidgeting. "Mom," he said, "we love you, but you've become more of a responsibility than a presence. We feel it's time to move forward. You've had your chapter, and, respectfully, it's time to close it." A few nervous chuckles. A cough. Then the words, "We've talked it over, and you're no longer considered part of this family." Lisa didn't look at me. She looked proud. Her brothers, seated on either side, smirked like they were watching good television. Even the grandchildren froze. And me? I smiled. Not big, not wide, but calm, controlled. I reached into my handbag, lifted the folder, the one with my name on every page, and placed it gently on the table in front of Adam. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," I said. "Here's your parting gift." He looked confused at first, tilted his head, as if expecting a check or a keepsake. Then he opened it and read the first line of the revised will. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed. He flipped to the next page. The forged property listing, the metadata, the email from his office, the elder care reimbursements, the photos, the affair, the woman's name, the final clause, the one that cut him out. His hands started to tremble. Lisa leaned in to look, and her smile cracked. The color drained from her face before she even made it to the receipts. Adam's voice shook. "What the hell is this?" I sipped my wine. "You wanted to make a decision about family," I said. "So did I." And I let the silence fill the table. This wasn't anger. This was justice, wrapped in paper, served hot. Adam kept flipping through the folder, faster now, like he thought he could outrun what was written. Then Lisa leaned over his shoulder. When her eyes found the words "mentally compromised but cooperative for now," she jerked the folder from his hands. "Give me that," she snapped, her voice breaking for the first time all evening. She flipped straight to the hotel receipts. 1, 2, 3. The name Marissa Grant repeated across 6 cities. Boutique purchases, a cabin rental, meals charged to a burner card. The silence at the table cracked. "What is this?" Lisa whispered, her eyes flicking from the receipts to her husband. "You told me you were in Chicago for a conference." Adam reached for the folder, but she pulled it out of reach. "You lied to me," she said. "You stole from your mother, and you cheated on me?" His face flushed deep red. "Lisa, listen." She stood. "No, don't talk, don't explain, don't touch me." She held the folder in both hands, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her voice trembled, but it carried. "This isn't just betrayal. It's fraud. It's criminal." One of her brothers leaned forward. "Is this real?" he asked, eyes wide. I answered before Adam could lie again. "Yes. Every page was verified by my attorney. I have a second copy with my lawyer, along with instructions for court proceedings." Gasps. Murmurs. Chairs shifting back from the table. Adam looked around, suddenly realizing this wasn't just a private moment. This was exposure. And he wasn't in control anymore. "This is insane," he said, voice rising. "You're trying to destroy me on Christmas?" I set down my wine glass. "No, Adam, you did that part on your own." He glared at me, panicked. "You can't just cut me out of the will." "I didn't," I said evenly. "You did, the moment you tried to take what wasn't yours." Lisa turned to me, her face pale but clear. "I had no idea," she whispered. "I swear to God, I didn't know about any of this." I looked at her, long and hard. She looked small for the first time. And scared. Good. Now they all knew what it felt like. Lisa was still standing, flipping, page after page, like each one might offer a different ending. But there it was, near the back, the final asset distribution. Adam, removed entirely. The house, placed in trust for Maddie. Remaining accounts, divided between charity and the grandchildren. Executor authority, retained solely by me. Lisa's hands shook as she read. Then she turned the page and saw the photographs. Adam and Marissa. arm in arm, waiting outside a spa in Scottsdale, smiling like they belonged to each other. That was when something snapped. She looked at him, not shocked anymore, just cold. "You used me to cover your tracks," she said. "You used our kids, our home." He started to speak, but she cut him off. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. "You said we were building a future. You were building a lie." And then she slapped him. Not a movie slap. Not dramatic. Just firm. Fast. Real. Adam flinched. The room went still. Nobody moved. Not even the children. Then someone, one of Lisa's brothers, let out a low whistle. Adam turned, furious. "Are you all just going to stand there?" No one answered him. He looked around the room, searching for allies. He found none. Even the grandchildren looked uneasy. Maddie leaned closer to Lisa, not him. He tried to appeal to me. "You're seriously going to ruin your own son?" I met his eyes. "You did that yourself. I'm just letting everyone read the fine print." He stepped toward me like he thought he could still control the room with his presence. That same posture he used to use at family parties when he interrupted me mid-story. But now, it didn't work. He looked small, like a man standing in the ashes of a fire he set. Lisa sat back down, folder in her lap, and turned to Mr. Carter, who had quietly arrived 15 minutes into the meal and sat unnoticed in the corner. "Is this real?" she asked him. He nodded once. "It'll hold up in court." Adam backed away like someone had slapped him again. He wasn't the head of the family anymore. He was the cautionary tale. Lisa stood again. Her voice was calm now, that terrifying kind of calm that follows humiliation, rage, and clarity all at once. "I'm filing for divorce," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Tomorrow. No drama, no tears, just a final sentence delivered like a verdict." Adam opened his mouth, stunned. "Lisa!" But she was already walking out of the room, folder in hand. Maddie followed without a word. The other kids trailed behind her like ducklings, quiet and wide-eyed. Lisa's mother, who had barely spoken all evening, rose from the other side of the table and followed too, pausing only to shoot Adam a look so sharp it could have split wood. The door clicked shut behind them. Adam stood alone, no wife, no daughter, no allies. I watched as the realization finally landed on his face. Not that he was in trouble, but that no one was coming to rescue him. That's when Mark, one of his business partners, seated near the end of the table, cleared his throat. "Adam, we're going to need to talk," he said, his tone flat. "This kind of thing reflects poorly on the firm." Adam's eyes widened. "Wait, what?" Another voice joined in, Lisa's brother, Paul. "You think anyone's going to trust a financial advisor who defrauded his own mother?" Laughter, bitter and low, circled the table. Adam's face was drained of color. He looked at me again, not with anger this time, but panic. "You planned this," he whispered. "You set me up." I met his gaze, steady and unshaken. "No, Adam, you set yourself up. I just gave everyone a seat at the table. For years, I was the one overlooked, the quiet one. The old woman in the corner they humored, dismissed, and excluded. But tonight, I wasn't invisible anymore. I was the witness, and the judge, and the damn jury. The room emptied in pieces after that, some with quick apologies, others with silent glances in my direction. A few whispered thank yous. No one looked at Adam. He stood there, hands shaking, staring at a chair no one had pulled out for him. By the time he left, the only sound in the room was the soft clink of my fork against my plate as I finished my dinner. Cold turkey. Still, tasted better than betrayal. By New Year's Eve, everything had begun to unravel. Lisa filed for divorce first thing the morning after Christmas. I didn't hear it from her. I saw it online. Her attorney made sure the filing was public, intentional, loud, infidelity, financial concealment, emotional harm. She checked every box. 3 days later, Mr. Carter filed the fraud complaint with the county. Real estate manipulation, attempted unauthorized transfer, elder exploitation. Again, all public. I didn't say a word, didn't make calls, didn't answer texts. I just let the paperwork speak, the same way Adam had tried to use it against me. Only this time, it worked. His employer suspended him, pending investigation. By the end of the week, the company quietly removed his name from the website. And the cherry on top? A letter from the broker who nearly sold my home, stating they were cooperating fully with law enforcement and would be submitting all communications to the State Fraud Division. Adam's voicemails to me started out defensive, then pleading, then angry. He said I was ruining his life, that I was turning a private family misunderstanding into a public spectacle, that I was vindictive. I never responded. Because none of this was about revenge. It was about truth. And truth has its own gravity. Once it starts moving, it pulls everything down with it. I saw Lisa once more, briefly. She dropped off Maddie's school things Adam hadn't asked about. She didn't linger, didn't cry. But before she turned to leave, she said quietly, "Thank you." I nodded. I wasn't proud. Not exactly. But I was settled. That house Adam tried to steal? Still mine. The assets he thought he'd inherit? Now guarded by a trust that doesn't even have his name on it. He burned the bridge. I just made sure no one else could rebuild it. The humiliation he tried to hand me at Christmas returned to sender with interest.